After an hour of searching the internet, Scooter could find none of Joseph Rollins' writings, although there were a few obscure and decaying sites full of ads and pop-ups which included some quotes claimed to be attributed to Joseph Rollins. "The men who fear the illusionary monsters of the twilight-glimpsed realms, before the dawning razored edge of first light, are the men who do not maintain the faculties required to draw the monsters from the parallels. For once the man can make the monsters his charge, then the man will become the master of those twilighted illusions. For he is the man who does not fear the dreadful nights, but reins them into his entourage for his private keeping." Only one place stored the information he needed: the Shadowland Booth Library at the Muskegon University in Saugur, about a 45-minute drive southwest of Buckeye. It was the 5th largest research university in Texas, and the Shadowland Booth Library housed an impressive archive vault beneath its 32,000 square feet and 8-floor building. Scooter knew it was impressive firsthand because he'd taken several field trips there in the course of his school life. Scooter could never forget that exotic, woodsy scent of the thick beige pages and leather covers on several of the old books in the archive. If he wanted any hope of a chance to discover what was happening to him, or what Zach really was, he'd have to take a visit to the library. The rev of a car engine sounded from somewhere outside. Scooter dashed to the window and peered through the slats of the blind. Birch's sedan slowed to a stop in front of the house. Behind it, Shane's motorcycle rolled up. The driver, Birch himself, hopped off the bike. Scooter watched as Birch rolled the bike into the shed before turning, skipping, and piling into the passenger side of the sedan, and the car drove off. He snatched his backpack from the closet. Freya, the cat that Amy had adopted years ago, was perched on his desk. Strange, because the cat rarely invaded his bedroom for any known reason. And typically the cat stayed outdoors, stalking the edges of the woods, hissing and swiping at invisible things that Amy called whites. Apparently, according to Amy anyhow, if it wasn't for Freya, those evil whites would be haunting the trailer. But Freya earned her keep by keeping those nasty spirits at bay, roaming the woodlands where they belonged. Amy frequently repeated her claim that she thought she knew the cat her whole life, like the feline reminded her of a person. Of course, Scooter didn't really believe in any of that stuff. A cat was just a cat, and cats didn't really see things that people couldn't see. Could they? But Freya stood on the desk, back arched, intense yellow eyes penetrating the dark room with the sharpness of golden razor blades. Freya slinked and nuzzled the dagger on his desk. The dagger. Somehow he knew deep inside his mind that he had to keep that dagger safe. And to keep it safe, he'd have to keep it hidden. Zach hadn't even noticed it when he'd made his uncanny visit earlier, but Scooter wasn't willing to take any chances. If Zach truly was a demonic being, then common sense told Scooter that he couldn't let that dagger fall into his possession. Scooter clutched the dagger, turning it over in his hand, then carefully slipped it into his backpack. Scooter scanned the pegboard over Shane's cluttered workbench. Fragrance of oil, gasoline, and cooped-up machinery fumigated the inside of the large workshop. From various size hooks on the wall hung pliers, goggles, screwdrivers, scissors, shovels, and exactly what he was looking for, a roll of duct tape. From the top of the workbench, he grabbed Shane's Coleman battery-powered lantern. He stuffed both in his backpack. From a plastic tub in the corner, he found an old fold-up shovel. They used to take it camping before Shane left for the army and turned into a jerk the size of the Gulf of Mexico. Scooter stuffed the small shovel into his backpack. As if the thing might bite him, he approached Shane's Honda dual sport bike. Was it even street legal? He put on the goggles, slid the kickstand up. On the right handlebar above the kill switch was the electric start. Scooter held his breath and hit the switch. He breathed a sigh, both in relief and in foreboding anxiety. Shane would be pissed as hell when he came home to find his bike gone. Not to mention, Scooter had little experience. He could count on one hand how many times he'd driven the bike. And out of those times, he'd nearly plowed it straight through the trailer house. Scooter ignored the uneasiness souring in his belly. He concentrated on the wind at his face, the roar in his ears. He caught a black blur of Freya dashing through the woods. Before he made the trip to Muskegon University, he had to stash the dagger somewhere safe. Somewhere where nobody would ever think to look. And so, he headed for Scrim Creek Cemetery. Did these folks think this was the goddamn Motel 6? Well, Tom Bodette didn't live here, and he sure in the hell wasn't leaving the lights on for anybody. Still wearing only his USMC boxers, he made his way to the door.
Eagerly I do wish that this is a rare and radiant maiden sent by the angels to old Abe.
What stood there on his stoop was no radiant maiden. Only a Buckeye officer. Not much old enough to be off his mama's teat. Officer Stark. Mr. Late Night Teat Patrol sported quite the nasty prune-colored bruise on the side of his face.
You done hit yourself in that noggin with your own baton, officer?
Cut the shit. Where's Carmen? Abe pouted his lips, scratched some dried flecks of tobacco from his chin.
Carmen?
He raked a hand through his long silver hair before he tapped his raised chin.
Carmen. Carmen. Come in.
Carmen Baez, friend of yours for, say, the last 20-some-odd years? Daughter of the wetback mafia of Buckeye. Ringing a bell, you crazy coon ass?
Don't know no Carmen. Is she the one with that mole on her right titty who works at the Hooters over in Runwich? 'Cause I tell you, mon ami, old Abe ain't seen a hair off her twat in, well, a coon's age.
Abe, you asshole, man. Her fucking car is parked just outside your property.
Biscuits are bullshit, you say?
Abe poked his head out the door, scanned the property. He didn't see the car. She must have left it at the end of the drive, close to the road. Fucking brilliant. Old Abe wanted to drag that girl straight up out of the shelter and wring her goddamn neck. She didn't hide the fucking car.
Old Abe a telling you that he don't know no common value.
I need to search the premises. Jeff fisted a piece of paper at Abe's chest. A warrant it must be for sure. Trying to buy time, think of something. Abe slowly unfolded the paper. As he read the flyer advertising a low-cost, low-monthly payment option for a timeshare on the tip of Florida, his big toe wanted to do a Cajun jitterbug.
Abe gonna see your timeshare bullshit, and he gonna raise you a big old stew or get the fuck out of my face with a generous sprinkling of some Smith & Wesson. And you know too, I might as well serve it all up with the side over my boot up, you screwy asshole.
I'll get that warrant. We both know it. And when I find her, I'm taking you down to the station too, and we'll just see who can make the better stew.
Boy, you done come barking up the wrong goddamn tree this evening. And so let me tell you again, get the fuck off of my land or I'm about to kick your fucking teeth in. Got a scrawny pig on the lawn. Got himself a nice shiner, and I'm reckoning that he's got a boner out for you, Cher.
It wasn't as creepy as he'd imagined a cemetery to be at this time of night. Not like they depicted graveyards in the movies or on... Something moved. Scooter clutched the dagger to his chest more tightly than a priest clutches the Holy Bible. From behind a gnarled, ashy-hued, stooped-over crone of a tree moved a slithering shadow. "Stay away!" He pointed the dagger at the shadow creeping along the edge of the black iron fence. An angered spirit of one of the dead that he'd disturbed, desecrating their eternal peaceful slumber. And the shadow darted. Freya. The cat had somehow managed to meet him at the cemetery, and now she was slinking in and out of the iron bars at the gate. According to what Shane once told him, the cemetery had been started back in the 1900s by the Scrim family who'd lived around these parts. First grave was dug by Atcham Scrim Jr., the Tall, they'd called him, because he was said to be more than 7 feet. And since then, the cemetery had gotten a lot bigger. Buckeye's very own small-town necropolis. Scooter pushed forward after the cat. He knew somehow that following Freya was a good thing, and that coming to the cemetery was too. Although for all he knew, he might have been following the Reaper himself into the final throes of life. Freya meowed as she now zigged and zagged between headstones. The cat paused intermittently, casting a bewitching glance back at Scooter. Then, with a swish of her tail, she'd proceed onward, deeper and deeper into the sprawling depths of granite stones and eerie graveyard architecture. Decor for the dead, in the blatant imagery of smooth-skinned maidens thrusting meticulously sculpted breast upward toward the heavens. Melancholy smiles hewn into funereal perfection, and crosses and rosaries and wreaths of flowers. Many dead, wilting, forgotten, and only a few still gleaming fresh, moist petals and stalks struggling for single drops of vital water. And the Sunday papers would tell the tale of his gruesome demise right down to the gritty detail of how his flesh had been eaten from the bone by a house cat. He snaked and weaved through the mass of shadow-claimed headstones and old statues. If he was going to follow this cat, then it was going to make for a long night. Freya took a sharp around a bulbous-looking gravestone and strolled by several severed tree stumps, and then dashed between 2 tall, skinny tombstones and onto a narrow aisle of graves, before she turned at the 7th, then walked past 3 more graves. She forged on and on, past too many graves for Scooter to count. She finally came to a stop and sat in front of a humble gravestone. Scooter used his flashlight and read the engraving. Gary Peters Wintry, beloved father, you are loved. You are missed. Scooter could hardly believe his eyes. He pulled off his backpack and began digging up the grave of Amy's father.
Got a scrawny pig on the lawn. Got himself a nice shiner, and I'm reckoning that he's got a boner out for you, Sheriff.
Carmen and Atticus both shot upright. Shit! Huh?
Black and blues here, kiddies. Got him a nice pop on his face, too. That thanks to you two?
How'd he find us?
Don't know, Sheriff. Guess some shithead fugitives left their getaway wheels on my drive. Tried to offer me a timeshare in Florida, but he'd be back with a real warrant. Old Abe's sure of it.
But I hid it.
Nope.
Well, shit. She'd pulled off a lot of costumes in her days, but apparently smooth criminal wasn't suiting her at all.
Old Abe got rid of him for now, but he'd be back soon and with a red ass. Let's get to packing your things and get to moving on down the bayou.
But my car, they'll be looking for it.
Is it locked?
Of course.
Locked but visible. Fucking brilliant. Let's head out on foot. Old Abe take care of the car.
Carmen flung the radio. We got a jet.